Hello YouTube, this is your friendly dog, digital dog, woof woof. Now, as explained in my channel, I do just do a mix of everything. There's not a particular subject that I follow. I'll go from archery to history of my town. I'm gonna do more stuff, with my channel, hopefully gaming, um, and all that. Yeah. So, but on this particular video, we're going to talk about an album that I just got today. Now, before we do, I shall talk about how I got into this album. Ronald Radke, I believe his name is. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name, because, like I said, when I first got into him, it was purely because of his videos and him kind of having a go at his comment section, and I just found it hilarious. I think the guy's really funny. So, this is the album. It's falling in reverse, and it is called Popular Monster. Now, again, I've not heard anything about this band. I don't know anything about it. Only what I've learned last sort of month or so. So, like I said, when I first saw Ronald, he was kind of having a go at some of the comments that he received, and it was just hilarious. Just loved it. So I really like the guy. Okay, so we'll start with the album itself and what's in it. So it starts off with a track called Prequel, which is kind of rap, rock, which is kind of, this goes all the way through the album. I kind of think that Ronald likes his rap and likes to incorporate it with his music, which certainly applies to one track on this album. So Prequel was kind of like a spoken lyrical track. The second one was Popular Monster. Now, for people like me who've never heard of the band, that was one of the first tracks I heard. Excuse me. And I really liked it. I thought it was a good track. And that kind of made me want to get the album, because I was more interested in what the rest of the album was like. And then we had All My Life featuring Jelly Roll. This was interesting to me because Jelly Roll, being like a country rapper, it had a kind of a country feel to it. So kind of country metal feel to it. And the Jelly Roll too has his like metal influences as well. So, it was a very good track. Then the track that I guess people like me, again, that we first heard was Ronald. Especially if you're into Slaughter to Prevail. I brought, I ordered the album Viking, and I shall probably do a review on that because I just love Alex the Terrible's vocals. He's amazing. But enough about Alex. We'll talk about the track Ronald. Now, Ronald has Tech Nine in it, an amazing rapper, as everyone probably knows, very fast. Now, I was actually surprised as well with Ronald that him himself is a very good rapper. I was quite surprised about that, to be honest. He can rap really fast, and I was quite impressed by that. I was also impressed by his range. He can go quite up there, and he can go quite down there. He's got an amazing vocal range, as Ronald. So then the next track is Voices in My Head. Now, throughout this album, and this track as well, especially, as with a couple of others, is very much about him talking about himself, like depression and all that kind of stuff. So he seems to be an artist who likes to talk about things that are symbolic to him, but are also things that are going on in the world today. So, unlike most rock, which is about skulls and monsters and all that, which I like. Like I said, I like Doom and I like all that kind of stuff. But I like many kinds of music, and I just found that kind of refreshing. The next track, um, after Voices in My Head, was Bad Guy, featuring say Solare. Sorry if I butchered that name, but I've really never heard of that band. But yeah, a Bad Guy. And again, that seemed to me was a very personal track about how he saw how society saw him. Yeah, as being the bad guy, when in fact he's just a man who speaks his truth. And whether you like it or not, that's his truth. And I guess through media, he's got slated for it, cancelled, if you want to put it that way, which is absurd to me, but that's just how the world is today, unfortunately. You can't say certain things on social media or else you'll get blocked. I've experienced it myself. I just don't get it. Thus, most sites now I won't go on. Refuse to. Anyway, so yeah, that was Bad Guy. The other track was Watch the World Burn, which, like I said before, was very much about how the world is becoming and it's getting worse. So he's speaking about how our voices are not allowed to be heard, being cancelled, and all that kind of stuff, And he I think lyrically he puts that very well into his music. The next track is Trigger Warning. This one, again, I felt was a personal track for him about his past and what he did in his past. I know this album came out a long time after his other stuff because he had certain situations, which I guess the fans of the band will know. So I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, he's talking about the stuff that he went through and how he's progressed through that. And I think, yeah, it's a good track. I did enjoy that track. The other track was Zombified. And like I said, all through the album, it seems to be that he's a guy who, like I said, who likes to sing about things that are relevant to him, things that he feels. He's non-apologetic about that. He will say things that other people will be like, "Whoa, how could you say that? How could you say that?" And it's like, well, this is his opinion. I don't understand people these days. I really don't. So then we got to get to Zombified, which again is a track about how we as people are not allowed to be ourselves. On certain social medias, we're not allowed to say certain things. You'll get banned. I've had that personally myself. And personally, I think what I wrote, I can't see that as being threatening or, the promoting violence. It's ridiculous. But hey, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the album. And the other one was No Fear. And like I said, it's again talking about having no fear in talking about what you want to talk about, being who you want to be. And then it was done very well. Because I'm very interested in the lyrical side of music, and I think Ronnie is very good at putting his thoughts down onto paper, then onto music. I think he's a very talented musician. Then the last track was Last Resort. This track was very different to the rest of them. This was a very mellow track, had some nice synths to it, some piano to it. So it was a very nice track. Very different to all the rest of the album, sorry. But it was a good track. It was nice. So overall, what do I think of this album as a kind of, let's say, a new fan? Because I am a fan of Falling Back into Reverse now. I think they're a great band. I would love to hear some of his earlier stuff because personally for me, and this is just a personal thing, I expected this album to be a little bit more heavier. Um, but obviously that's not their style. They are heavy in a way, but they're not like heavy as like Doom or Thrash or anything like that. They're a heavy band. They're a loud band. Their bass is, amazing. I seriously suggest if you play this album, you play it for a good uh, stereo because it'll bring out the best of the music. So yeah, Falling in Reverse, Popular Monster. I would give this album a solid 9 out of 10, to be honest. Even though I'm more into aggressive metal, I just found, especially with lyrically with this album, I found it really good lyrically as well. Like I said, I think Ronald, sorry, I'm sorry for butchering your name, Ronald. Please pick me on one of your videos. No, don't. Yeah, so I really like that about him. It also comes with a nice little booklet with all the lyrics on it, so you can sit there yourself and you can listen. Sorry, you can read all the lyrics. There's a few bits of artwork there. Bit of artwork there. There's old Ronnie there, Ronald. Sorry. That I found fascinating. Now, like I said, I don't know much about his past, but I know a little bit, and I know that's relevant. So yeah, that's quite a cool little picture there. I don't know if that's actually real. You know, it's all blanked out there, so possibly. And there's another. I like the beams coming out the eyes there. That's really cool. Then we had this bit, a jar of pills, which with one song kind of went into that with his past, and thankfully he's got past that and he's doing really well, which congratulations Ronnie for that. There's their kind of logo, which is cool. I like things with logos. And there's Ronnie again, and just at the end it's at last resort. So again, what did I think of this album? I say a solid 9 out of 10 for me, even though I'm not really into kind of soft metal, but kind of hard to call this soft metal, if that makes sense. I guess you fans out there would probably be able to educate me more on his earlier stuff, whether it was more heavier or not. Because to be honest, I really not got much into his earlier stuff, just his newer stuff. So, I'd be interested to find out what albums maybe someone can suggest for a person who likes more heavier stuff. Whether he has done heavier stuff, I don't know. I'm only going on this album. I personally, and this is not a diss on this album, but I expected it to be a bit more heavier. I don't know why. I guess it was because of Ronald's attitude and that. And I kind of found when I was watching the live shows, it came across a little bit more heavy as well in the live shows. So yeah, I kind of expected this to be a little more heavier, but I wasn't disappointed in that though. I didn't necessarily think, well, no, this ain't heavy enough. No. And because I like lyrics, I find Ronald to be a deep thinker. He very much feels that it's important to say certain things, certain subjects, to get it out there, to make us understand the world, to make us understand him, because I think he's a very, what do you call it, a misunderstood guy. I really do. I think most people look at him and think, and also some of the things he says, You know, I've heard of controversial and all that, and you know, I don't find it controversial. I just don't. I find it's his truth. It's his, you know, the life he's gone through. Why shouldn't he speak about what he believes the world's going through? Why shouldn't he speak about? You know, I just don't understand this council culture. You're not allowed to speak about anything. Ridiculous. So this album, to me as well, was a very refreshing album in that way that he's he sings and raps about stuff that is in his heart and also what goes on in the world as he sees it. And he's very accurate about it, to be honest. So there we go. Popular Monsters, a good album by Falling in Reverse. I would recommend it, especially if you're into kind of like softer metal, but then you also like it a little bit aggressive as well, because it does have that kind of balance to it. It's not, like I say, it's not doom, it's not thrash, but it's not soft metal, if that makes sense. You know, it's very hard. I mean, if you put it for a really good stereo system, which I have, the bass is phenomenal. So yeah, I would love to see them live because their live sets just seem to be amazing with all the pyrotechnics and all that. Absolutely amazing. So I rate them as a very good band, and I didn't know they'd be going for a long time. And obviously, you know, he was away for a little while, came back and made this masterpiece, I think. So we'll call it that. Yeah, it's a masterpiece. It's a very good album, a solid album. So that's me talking about the album from the band Falling in Reverse. And you all have a good day. You all look after each other, look after yourselves, look after your family. Just be good. That's my main take on life. Just be good. So take care. This is Digital Dogs. Woof woof. Peace out.